Greetings, I'm Professor K, and in this short video presentation we're going to see how we go about editing a group policy object to affect computers in our Server 2016 domain. In a previous video you saw how we used group policy to disable users having access to the command prompt for all users that reside inside of the payroll container. Let's take a look at how that actually works. So we're going to go up to Tools, let's go to Active Directory Users and Computers. Now up here inside of my payroll container, you'll see that I have a couple of users. So now when these users log on to the domain, they will be restricted from having access to their control panel while inside of the payroll container. Currently we don't have any computers inside of the payroll container, so let's go ahead and create one. So I'm going to right click on my payroll organizational unit, and I'm going to go to New, and I'm going to create a new computer. We're just going to call this payroll. You can go ahead and leave the user or the group as a default, that's fine. Just go ahead and say OK to that. So now we have a computer that's inside of the payroll container that will be affected by the group policy object that we're about to edit. Let's close out Active Directory Users and Computers, and let's go to Tools, and from here let's go on down to Group Policy Management. From here we can expand our domains container, and from here we can click on the name of our domain, and we can see all the containers or the organizational units that are currently being affected by a group policy inside of our domain. From here, expand your payroll organizational unit, and you'll see that group policy object that we created earlier. Just right click on that object, select Edit. Let's go ahead and make this full screen. And you'll see that we have two different options that we can edit up inside of this group policy. As before, we can modify the computer configuration or the user configuration. In this example, we're going to modify a setting that's going to affect computers when those computers are logged on to the domain. As long as that computer is inside of the payroll container, it will be affected by this group policy object. So just as before, we can go ahead and expand policies. And again, we have the majority of the settings are going to be available to us underneath Administrative Templates. Here you can go to System, and you can see all the different settings that you have available that can be configured for the computer when the user logs on for the first time. You have Network, you have all these different options that you can play with in here. I suggest that you be very careful when you're dealing with these different settings. They can get you in a lot of trouble. Underneath Windows Components, for instance, you have the camera. Now if you open up the camera setting, you'll see that it says allow use of camera. You may not want to allow users to connect a camera to their computer, especially inside of a sensitive area. So you can go ahead and double click this, and here we can go ahead and enable the setting, and now users will not be able to use a camera inside of the payroll center. Go ahead and make this full screen so we can apply, say OK. So in this short video presentation you saw how easy it was for us to go up inside of our group policy for the payroll container and modify a setting for the computers that are currently available inside of the payroll organizational unit.